Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. Time for the East Line Planning Commission regular meeting. First order, call order, do roll call. Right to left.
Cindy Collins.
Tim Leducer.
Rich Gordon.
Tom Finney. Nick Menapace.
Thank you. Now time for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up, call for additions to the agenda.
We do have one, the application of Kristen Clark, DE, DOE, applicant at the Mall Partners LLC, owner, application for a 20-lot subdivision of approximately 12.67 acres of land, zone RU80 on property located on the south side of Holmes Road, between 20 and 38 Holmes Road, East Lyme, Connecticut, assessor's map number 57, lot 30. Needs a motion to add that to item B under the subdivision. That application came in yesterday to our office and we received
Thank you. Any discussion? I can entertain a motion to add the application as item B under the subdivision / re-subdivisions.
So moved.
Thank you. You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I'd also like to add addition to the agenda. We have a Sandy Gignac, one of our alternates. We had resigned last month. So you're somebody if you have somebody in the audience, Kevin Mills, who would like to who submitted an application to you to replace Sandy, but it's past the 30-day period. So we can discuss that.
probably put that on during your report, under the chairman's report. We can have some discussion there about it.
I mean, you can put that under the reports.
Or you can,
I can put it under the chair, where I do the chairperson's report, yes. Okay, thanks. I just need a motion to add that to the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. You have a second?
You don't really need a motion if you're going to just include it.
put it in
Okay.
part of your report.
I guess that's true.
Oh, I'm sorry. A motion to add the discussion over the.
I think you said I don't think we need to. It's just going to be part of yours.
Speak to it as part of your report.
Okay.
I'll just put it in the report. And,
Yeah.
Right.
okay. Thank you. Now's the time for public delegations. Public delegations is a time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters, items, referrals, or applications subject to decision by the commission. A public hearing or litigation may not be discussed. During delegations, the member of the commission will not directly answer questions or make comments. Anybody in the audience? Okay, thank you. Next up is the reports. Communications, I don't think we have any.
Outside of the pending applications currently.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Zoning liaison, is anybody able to attend any of the zoning meetings since last? No. Okay. Ex officio, I don't see Mr. McKenzie here. Planning director report. Gary, do you have anything else to add, or?
Don't have anything to add at this time. I will just note that I'll take that back. As we know, we are in that season of budgets. I presented my budget last night to the Board of Selectmen. It's essentially flat. The current funding will remain assuming that it does get approved. So this year will look like last year. As far as training and things like that, we do have money budgeted for it, but it's not increasing. So that's
Okay,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
I just had a question. Does that include like salaries for your department and everything? Or are we like? I just usually expect those will go up at least a little bit.
That's pretty
Yeah.
much the only
Okay.
item that is increased in my budget is the salary line item. Everything else is either remained flat or been reduced.
Okay.
Thank you. Subcommittees, I don't think we have anything. Chairperson report, as I mentioned, we have an applicant for the open alternate position, Kevin Mills. He submitted an email to us. I did talk to him. It's a very impressive email. Mr. Mills, do you want to speak, or?
Sure.
Sure. Yes.
Hello,
How are you?
my name is Kevin Mills. I'm applying for the alternate position. I've lived in town for 15 years. My wife and I have owned a home here for 10. I have a construction background. I've been in that industry for 20 years, and I've owned and operated a small business here in Niantic for the past 5. I'm looking to get involved in my community and my small government. And I saw this as a good opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Or?
Your address?
My address is 58 Riverview Road.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you. Thank you for.
So I would just suggest a letter you send to either myself or the front office, Sandy Anderson, so we get it from Dan, so then most likely they have to make the appointment.
Okay.
It's been over 30 days since the
Right.
previous alternate resigned.
So just forward that to Dan.
Yes.
Okay.
Dan and Sandy. Make sure Sandy gets it, so
Okay.
Dan gets it.
So,
Okay.
as Gary mentioned, it's been over 30 days since the last person resigned, so according to our regulation, it has to go to the Board of Selectmen.
Understood.
And does he need to do anything else? He sent an email to you, and you'll just
I'll forward it to Sandy.
you forward to,
We'll get it.
okay, then
This will be at the next board meeting.
I'm sorry?
It will be voted on at the next board meeting.
That's
Board of Selectmen.
It's up to the Board of Selectmen what they want to do. I mean, you can,
I don't know if they'll put it on their next agenda. I mean, Sandy just prepared it, so they might be able to add it.
Right.
It's a pretty simple.
you can also attend if you wanted to talk at the meeting. It's up to you and your schedule, but
Yeah. The next meeting should be,
I appreciate your volunteering and
Yeah.
impressed by your credentials. Should we make a motion to
Well, if you want to
recommend?
recommend or endorse the candidate, and I'll draft correspondence to
Okay, it won't be binding, but we can recommend, to the Board of Selectmen.
consider.
Is there any discussion, or?
I mean, I'd like to make a motion to recommend Mr. Mills as the new planning alternate.
Thank you. Any other discussion, or? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next up on the agenda is the meeting minutes of January 14th, 2025, the regular meeting minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? I can entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Do I hear a second on the minutes?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes of January 14th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No, I'm going to abstain.
And one abstention. Your abstention too, so it's 3, 0, and 2 abstentions. Next, public hearings. We don't have any public hearings today. Next up, now we're just going to discuss the issues on the subdivision, 3 subdivisions. We have an application of Stephen Harney for a 2-lot subdivision of approximately 6 acres of land, zoned RU40, and property received Heritage Road in East Lyme, Connecticut, Assessors Map 35-0, Lot 23-1 in East Lyme. As this is a subdivision, no public hearing is required, and the commission has 65 days to render a decision. Mr. Harney, or?
Charity's here on behalf of
Let's-
Mr. Bernie and the applicants.
Note that today starts the 65-day clock for the decision. Agenda.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Commission. My name is Paul Garrity. I represent Portside Holdings, Inc. and English Harbor Capital Partners, which are the owners of the property subject to this application. On that, it's a 3-lot subdivision of a parcel that is on Patagonia Lake. With me tonight is J.P. Marine from Gerwick Marine Surveying and Mr. Timothy May, a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, who have assisted in the development of the plan. By way of smarter than I am.
Just trying to find this.
Property,
Okay, thanks.
by way of background on this property, this was originally part of the Hathaway estate. My clients took this property as a first split. At the time, the entity that acquired the property was an entity known as Hathaway Acquisitions, LLC, which was comprised of both Portside and English Harbor. It was 100-plus acres. As you may be well aware, the large majority of this parcel went to the town through an agreement with the East Line Land Trust and Hathaway Farm Acquisition. The piece that we're looking at tonight, which consists of 3 parcels which are subject to this, as I noted, was a free split that was taken when this property was originally acquired. Prior to that, it had never been subdivided. It had been in the Hathaway family since prior to the formation of the United States, if I remember the dates correctly. The property is accessed by a private road from Heritage Drive to the 3 lots that we're proposing on the lakefront. There are no wetlands on the property. There's a report in the file from REMA Environmental Services. If you look at this, the boundary line of our property, according to the deed, is the high water mark on the lake. So the water course is not on the property. And so therefore, we did not submit to the Inland Wetlands Agency because we're not proposing any activity at this point in time on the property within a review area. The property, just by way of background, was in fact offered at one point by my clients to the town. The town has never taken them up on that proposal on there. We have been, in terms of the property itself, there would be a conservation easement placed on the shoreline areas. We have been working with the Department of Environmental Protection and Energy and Environmental Protection in order to come up with language that that agency would like to see in the restrictive covenant on the property, and also any building issues that they see in terms of activity on the water, such as if somebody wants a dock or whatever, that they would propose essentially guidelines for us in that document so that homeowners are fully aware of what the requirements are. The subdivision maps themselves indicate that any property owner who wishes to build on the property is subject to obtaining an inland wetlands permit. Just as a practical matter right now, even if we went and tried to get inland wetlands approval on this, since we're not proposing any actual buildings, these are conceptual or theoretical buildings, we have approval from Ledgelight for septic on there. But again, because a actual builder or property owner can choose where they want to build, they could put that elsewhere. They'd still have to come back to inland wetlands in order to make sure that whatever they're proposing meets inland wetlands requirements. Because at that time, they would be actually proposing construction activity within the review area. But there's no activity that's going to occur either way in the wetland area because the wetlands are not on our property. So far, my understanding is DEEP has reviewed the subdivision plans and the environmental impact report prepared by REMA, and the response there was the fact that they want to look at the conservation easement, which they're doing, and propose some language for that easement, which we don't see is going to be an issue from our perspective. The road that is proposed is going to be a private road. It will meet all the town's private road standards. It's technically not included in part of our application. I should point out too, by way of this, when we were negotiating prior to the land trust acquiring the property and it being conveyed or purchased by the town, the Lloyd property, which is an in-holding on this property, is right in this area here. The Lloyds had an easement for access through the old Hathaway Road area. So it cut across all of the property and then entered the area that we're proposing, generally in the area where the road on the interior is. But the agreement that we had, that the Lloyd access had in it was that at any point subsequent thereto, that easement could be relocated, provided access was still provided to Lloyd's. When we were negotiating with DEEP over the conservation easement on the larger parcel, DEEP said that had to go. They didn't want it on their property to take it. We entered into an agreement with the Lloyds to provide access over this area where the road is. That road has already been cut in. There were permits approved for that. I can provide the commission with a copy of those permits. And the road was cut in, and then we signed an additional agreement with the Lloyds, recognizing that the prior easement had along the larger piece that's subject to the transfer to the town has been extinguished, and they would use only the access for this roadway on here. And if I might, Gary, I can provide you with that. That's a copy of the permit that allowed us to cut in the driveway. The other document I'm going to hand Mr. Gaishel is the aquifer protection areas. And I'll provide the commission members with that. What this is a town map that shows the aquifer protection areas, none of which impact this property. They're all on the other side of the lake. The road itself, as I indicated, complies with Section 814 of your subdivision regulations and AASHTO guidelines for very low-volume roads. It's 18 feet in width with a maximum grade below what is the maximum is for the town. And the only lots that would be accessed by this would be the lots that are proposed for this subdivision in the Lloyd area, the Lloyd property. The road itself would approximately be 50 feet wide in terms of the access area. The improved area would be less than that, and it's about 750 feet in length on that. We also have reached an agreement with Connecticut Light and Power, or Eversource, for the power lines and all of that to go in and service the area on that. I don't know if there's any other questions that the commission has at this point on this application. We did, I should indicate, I did receive from Mr. Close just earlier, but not prior to the meeting, like tonight, a list of about 4 questions with respect to the drainage on here. I just showed them to Mr. May. I don't know if he's had a chance to formulate responses to those, but the other comments from staff essentially, as I understand it, indicated no issues with respect to the application.
Gary, were there some questions from Mr. Mulholland that you want to have brought up, or I guess with the driveway and the setback from maybe the setback from the water courses or something? I just noticed something when in the on the website that he. No, I guess on the documents portion on the.
We got that review sheet from Mr. Mulholland.
Gary, I have a copy.
Have to make an HOA for it.
Yeah.
question, the number of lots shall not exceed the number of lots one can achieve under the conventional subdivision. We've got 5+ acres,
Yeah.
approximately 6 acres according to the agenda. As noted in the previous conversation with Mr. Perry, that because the state is claiming the water course up to the beyond the high water mark, that parcel itself is actually 5 point something acres.
Yeah, I'd have to let Jake,
So it's just under the 6. Nonetheless, an R40 zoning district, 40,000 square feet being a lot minimum. EL zoning reg 23.3 CDD allowed for less than 10 acres or 4 lots.
Three.
Okay. He's got 3 lots, so we could apply the CDD here if we wanted to. If they needed some sort of dimensional flexibility, they are proposing conservation easement in the amount of 1.77 acres. I would have to double check that against the open space requirement.
Right.
That's the 30%, but I suspect it would meet that. Required setback from water courses are 100 feet. I'm not sure what that, I can make that up to something. Back, lot, back.
regard setback from water courses 100 feet. And then it says ensure any open space is correctly labeled on the plan. Ensure soil and erosion control plan for the driveway. Build and bond.
Right, I think that was,
I have not completed my own review. We typically wait for staff to come in and
Right.
create a list of findings. We do have 65 days, and this gives them time. I would think well before the next meeting to have this completed. It's pretty straightforward. Call my cursory review. Division of 3 lots. There's no wetlands on the site. While there may be regulated activities associated with this in terms of the construction of the driveway and utilities, there's no wetlands on the property, so they don't actually have to go to wetlands for the subdivision approval. If the commission were to approve the application, when they start construction, before that, they're going to need to get permits from the wetland agency for the construction of the driveway, installation of utilities, all ahead of time.
Is that going to be an HOA over there?
Yeah, or bond.
There is going to be an HOA for the road.
Yeah.
Yes, so,
Okay.
right.
right. So a lot of these conditions can be put on the bond once, you know, written up, or,
Yeah, we would probably require erosion sedimentation control bond for the
Right.
construction. I would note that there is no proposed public improvements, so we're not bonding any public improvements. It would just be an erosion sedimentation control bond.
Okay.
We're not taking responsibility.
Yeah, the road. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Gay, I just had
Any
a
other
quick question,
questions,
and
or-
forgive me, I've been trying to go through these notes and see if was this the property that was brought up by Mr. Carlson from the East Lyme Land Trust about the town purchasing? Because I thought he had told us it was this property that was,
Yes.
this seemed like it was just
Yes.
very recently.
Mr. Harney was having discussions with the first
Okay.
selectman about them acquiring the balance of the property. Obviously, by the fact that we're here,
Yeah.
those discussions basically have stalled.
Okay.
I haven't been privy to them, but I know that whatever discussions there were in terms of a price and terms like that, they didn't reach an agreement on it
Okay.
yet. I mean, is it still possible? Sure, anything is, but, you know, we decided to move forward with the application because it was taking too long to get it anywhere at the
Yeah,
town.
it didn't, like, it just didn't seem like it was that long ago. I was just surprised to see this quickly, I guess, but maybe I'm just unfamiliar with how quickly these types of developments work, but.
Those discussions were probably taking place long before it became public that there were those discussions. Let's put it that way.
I would say 8 months ago, they
Yeah,
started
it was
discussing
well
this.
Okay. Yeah, my time frame is all out of whack right now, so forgive me on that one. But,
I would say that publicly, I would only found out probably in December that I just found out that this was even offered to the town.
okay. All right.
Literally December, so I'm the town planner.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I think we can maybe table this discussion till the next meeting, since we have 65 days to render a decision, and Gary can make comments or the next meeting.
It would move us to, just like any other subdivisions, that we make sure we take appropriate findings that comply with subdivision.
Okay.
I agree.
So I need to make a motion to table the discussion, I guess. Not necessarily.
Again, you don't need one.
No, no, no.
Table it for the next-
I'll just table it, okay.
Yeah, we're wide open for,
And they're not gonna go far, because they're the next item.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up, I guess, next was the addition to the agenda on the application of Kristen Clark, applicant for Duval Partners LLC owner, application for a 20-lot subdivision of approximately 12.67 acres of land zone RU 80 on property located on the south side of Holmes Road between 20 and 38 Holmes Road, East Lyme, Connecticut. Assessors map 57, lot 30. Mr. Garrity, do you want to speak?
Thank you. Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is Paul Garrity. I represent the applicant here, which is Duval Partners LLC, and Kristen Clark, P.E., who is a professional engineer. This is our application. As this commission may or may not be aware, for this property, we had previously submitted to the zoning commission an affordable housing application for the same number of lots that are proposed here as a convention, be careful of my wording or the choice of words here, but in a concept of a subdivision of approximately 19 or 20 lots, and then there was going to be a component of multifamily. That application was denied by the commission, by the zoning commission. We've had a number of mediations with court judges on this. Most recently, we had a hearing before the judge who handles land use appeals for affordable housing. Prior to that, because of some of the issues that the judge had raised, we started looking at whether or not to come back in with a straight affordable housing subdivision and only do essentially a subdivision application, putting on hold for the time being the multifamily component. What you have before you in terms of the application is that those 19 lots for an affordable housing subdivision application. We, in my cover letter, indicated what we plan to do is use your planning allotment or a provision in the subdivision regulations to come in, present this to you, get feedback from this commission, try and work with this commission to come up with a way to address any issues that it might ultimately have once it's had an opportunity to look at the subdivision. And that's where what I'm proposing tonight, that obviously you're not going to make a decision tonight. Whether you schedule for a public hearing or not, that obviously is within the commission's discretion. But what we would propose is that when we get to the next hearing on this, where the commission and staff have had a chance to start looking at the application itself, we would bring in our professionals and do the informal meeting process here on the record before this commission to see what your concerns may be and how we can best address those.
Thank you. I know you since it was a subdivision, you're claiming that it doesn't require a public hearing, but I think for 20 lot, I made a mistake. I was reading something in the regs that if it's a 20-lot subdivision, it would still require a public hearing, or?
Yeah, anything over 10 lots, you have the discretion to hold a public hearing.
Yeah, right, any 10 lots, right.
It was a conventional
So-
subdivision versus
Even though it's-
the statute 8-30G. So essentially, they do not have to comply directly with necessarily every requirement defined in the statute. It's typically, I guess the proper form, if you will, to try to meet those regulations as nearly
Right.
possible themselves are pretty flexible in terms of what they offer as far as dimensional flexibility, the ability to cluster the development. I would note that there's roughly 300 plus acres of open space that was since been dedicated from which this parcel came from. With that said, if you think about a cluster subdivision or a CBD subdivision in its essence, that's kind of what you're looking for is the clustering of, say, 20 lots, similar to this, with the dedication of the open space. I think in this case, they dedicated the open space ahead of the actual subdivision or the site development. So I would just, kind of look at it in that context. That's how I'm viewing this, essentially. Aside from the affordability aspect, it's 30% to set aside. That's essentially three houses. Probably two of which will be at 80% market rate and one at 60%.
I see how it works.
So it's with our affordable housing stock having a percentage having slid backwards, certainly 3 units that could add to it. It's not going to give us a whole percentage point, but again, it's adding to that percentage. So I think if essentially the land can support the housing via septic suitability, then it's viable. Again, Ledgelight has to weigh in as far as septic wells and being separated. We have to take a look at the proposed drive, ensure that it meets the regulations for a private road. That being said, I don't have anything else really to add at this point, aside from staff. We just referred it out today, so staff will begin our review.
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, so we are coming in under 830G, which says that we're not bound by the zoning regulations that are, but that said, the only real difference here, and if we, as Gary said, if we look at the CDC, is the lot area. We're not meeting the minimum lot area requirement on those, A, because we're not required, B, because Ledgelight was supposed to have been out there about a week ago, for whatever reason, did not arrive. They're supposed to be there next week, I'm now told, to do the test pits, but our initial findings indicate that even with a smaller lot, and the lots were designed with this in mind, we can get both septic and well on all of them, so they would all have individual septic and individual wells that meet the state health code. The roads would be private roads. There would be a homeowners association in there. Everything would be designed to the private roads standard. But as for the rest, the balance of the subdivision regulations, we can meet almost all of the subdivision regulations, even though we would not necessarily have to under 830G. But again, we're looking to do this as close as possible to meet all the subdivision regulations, and really the only one significant one that I see an issue with at this moment is the lots will not meet the minimum lot area requirements, but they will be able to meet everything, including setbacks from adjacent properties and so forth for the building locations.
That's in a conventional subdivision.
Correct, yeah.
So hypothetically, they didn't apply for a conservation development design subdivision, had they, right? You could still apply section 23 of the zoning law. There's no dimensional requirement for the lot area under the CBD. There is setback requirements, a front yard setback of 10 feet, a rear yard of 30, when it's along the side of the perimeter, 15-foot rear yard setback, side yards 15, and along the side yard along the perimeter again is 15 feet. So they do have a building setback to water courses, wetlands, is 100 feet. So those are the only dimensional standards that apply under CBD. I don't know for certain in terms of subdivision, it being exempt from meeting the underlying zoning regulations in a conventional situation. Nonetheless, it looks like the applicant is attempting to at least meet the regulations kind of in a, I guess, in a fashion. I don't know how to describe it, because it looks like you really had a CDD subdivision, and maybe they don't have enough open
However, because it's affordable housing, open space is waived under the Affordable Housing Act. So what we're trying to do, and Gary's correct, I mean, the 305 acres that was donated to the East Lyme Land Trust was part of this piece was originally 3 lots that had been approved for a golf course, 77 units of housing. I forget the exact parking number in terms of that, but it was a pretty massive parking lot, over 70 spaces for the clubhouse. So all of that has gone away as a result of the client putting together with Duval that approach to create the open space and donate that to the land trust, and then come back in and look at this saying, okay, if we can do a small subdivision over here relative to what had previously been approved by the town, they're going to be content with that. And then the approach has been with the professionals to try and do our best to satisfy, even though we're not required to satisfy a lot of the regulations, do our best to satisfy as many as we possibly can to alleviate concerns that the commission might otherwise have.
What are they planning on building in these lots? Single-family homes or duplexes?
No, these would all be single-family. The original application included these as they were single-family, and then approximately, I'm forgetting at this point, I think it was about 40 units of multifamily duplex kind of style homes in the area to the rear of this that's not part of the open space that was conveyed. We've tabled that at this point in time and decided we'll just go with the subdivision, and then at some point in the future we have to go back to the court and tell them where we're at and where things go with regard to that appeal.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understood there correct, because there was, that's a similar question. So are you saying that the multifamily units you were doing were not originally part of this, or you have just simply moved away from doing single or multifamily homes and moved to doing single family?
So the multifamily was part of this originally, as were the single-family homes, as you see them presented to you now. But the multifamily was a component towards the rear of this property. In light of where we are at with everything overall in terms of appeals, we've decided to table anything with regard to the multifamily and simply go with the subdivision at this time. We'll have to revisit anything beyond that down the road. The multifamily would end up going back to the zoning commission, though, if it were done.
So I just want to be clear. So this, what is it, 12 acres?
Yeah.
Was not ever considered for you doing multifamily?
Not this 12, not
Okay.
this,
I
piece,
just-
but there's a
that's-
few acres behind
Yes,
it
but
that was,
yes.
yes.
That-
Which would have been accessed through this property.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wanted to be clear about that.
yeah,
one, 'cause
no, that's fine.
wasn't sure.
I
Thank you.
understood. Sure.
Are there any other concerns or questions?
So I'm just, Mr. Chair, just so I'm clear, lot 20, you're not proposing a single-family house, or it's being proposed as a building lot?
It's not being proposed as a building lot at this point in time. 20 is what we consider the remaining land that would get us to the multifamily if it ever were to get to the point where we decided to come back with a multifamily application. That would be the means to access the balance of the property. So if you look at lot 20,
Yeah,
goes in there, that whole piece.
yeah, it's huge.
Right. It's on the rear of the property. You'd gain access through lot 20 essentially, and then it would be developed behind the subdivision.
So as opposed to carving up lot 20 into
Yeah, I know.
one more lot?
Yeah, and we haven't, and I'm just being candid as I can, we haven't even gotten to that point at this time. We just thought the multifamily was such an issue, from the commission that we would move forward with this because it made sense to do so, and then see what we think we want to do with that remaining land, if anything. I mean, at this point in time, as I said, we've tabled it. There's an appeal pending in the court up in Hartford, but the judge there is saying, why don't you do, and we're candidly getting a little push from the judge, do your subdivision, go for that approval, and then see where you guys want to go tomorrow. Okay.
If I can ask one more question, do we have any information yet about the size of the homes on these individual half-acre lots?
Three bedrooms.
Are we anticipating that they're gonna like ask for a waiver in terms of like the I don't know what the exact term is, or for the size of the what is it, the gap between the edges of the property? I'm sorry, the setback. Yes, thank you.
No, they're able to meet the setbacks.
Side yard setbacks may be the only ones we ask.
Okay.
And it wouldn't necessarily be in the form of a waiver because it's an 830G application.
No, I'm
So-
aware that
yeah.
APG would let you pretty much.
Yeah, so we would just tell you, this is what we're doing, this is what the subdivision regulations would require, this is what we have, but we're not required to meet the subdivision regulations for this. And again, I think as we look at those and come in, questions or whatever that the staff has, we can identify any lots that there may be an issue, certainly try and identify everyone that does meet the setback requirements, and anyone that doesn't, address why it doesn't or can't.
So, I'm sorry, one more question. I apologize for any of the members that they feel like we're taking too much time. So these are, the road for the in part for this is going to be a private road.
Correct.
That's paid for with the HOA?
Correct.
Yes, so there would be, and if you're doing all septic, do we any information, and I'm assuming we'll get that the next time, of like what the cost will be for the town for setting up, like, I'm assuming the well connection is not going to be something that they're going to take on, that's going to be something the town is
Well,
going to have to
there's
pay.
no well connection. It's a well on the property, the homeowner's responsible for it. There's no public improvements proposed
Okay,
for the
understood.
subdivision.
So I guess
Yeah.
that does, forgive me, my terminology is not always correct, but yes, that was what I was trying to get, is if there was any public infrastructure improvements that we would need. Okay,
The only, I think, utilities, right?
Correct.
The overhead electrical.
But those are typically paid for by the developer anyway.
My only question is, because there is 20 lots under the CDP, or down those standard, you need a second means of egress, I see future Connecticut road. Connector road. But I would just think that may need to be constructed.
makes sense.
CDP.
Okay.
Obviously, if you do just under the 20, right, you could theoretically phase it into either 1, 2, 3 phases here, but this is 1 or 2 phases.
Thank you. I've been trying to do it, but I can't.
Having walked the site myself, certainly I'd let you take a drive by. It's fairly wooded. There is these roadways, I think,
They've been
cut in.
They're cut in, yeah.
But the site overall is relatively wooded. It's kind of an uphill, slight slope to it. It's high and dry, the wetlands and those resources. So, that's really too much about any wetland impacts.
Right.
Runoff here. I don't know what the soil, I haven't been familiar with the soil data, really see what the soils are up in this area, but I do suspect that they don't really have much of a drainage issue. The soil looked pretty gravelly, so I'm thinking much of the water that hits this is infiltrating. So in terms of stormwater, I think they'll be able to accommodate that. I'm sure Alex will have some comments as far as the stormwater goes, as you would with any subdivision.
Yeah. And I should point out too, when we were doing the conservation easement with the Land Trust and DEP on this, the reason this spot was chosen was because as we were looking at this, this was one that would meet, for instance, permeability requirements, et cetera. So it wasn't just something that was left over that we decided to develop. This, when we did this whole project, it was thought out like, okay, we need to, the Duval partners said we need to retain something that we can develop so that we can recoup their investment into the property. And then that's how we came up with this specific location, because it was no wetlands on it, and it was basically, in terms of soil types, et cetera, perfect for a subdivision.
Thank you. I would, even though it's, I guess, because it's a, under 830G, it doesn't require a public hearing, I would suggest that, because it's a court case, that we should
Yeah, I think
hold a
for the record,
public.
it's important to point out, the general statute 8-26C, I think I mentioned that too.
You did.
The commission may hold a public hearing regarding any subdivision proposal if, in its judgment, the specific specific circumstances require such action. No plan of re-subdivision shall be acted upon by the commission without a public hearing. Such public hearing shall be held in accordance with provisions of section 8-7D of the Connecticut General Statute. So you do have the discretion there. I think because there is some pending litigation, it is an affordable housing proposal. You could require a public hearing, although you don't have to.
Okay.
Should you do that, that does start a different clock. We would have 65 days from today to schedule that. Most likely the next regular scheduled meeting, which is March 11th. And we have 35 days to conduct it. And then on the close, 65 days to make a decision. Certainly faster than that, but
So we need a motion to start the public hearing.
you need a motion. You need to determine first if it warrants one, and if it does, I
Right.
would say make a motion to hold a public hearing at our next regular schedule.
What do the other commission members feel about that?
I mean, we need, we need a stock of single-family houses in this town. You worked on the affordable housing plan with me, and
Right.
it seems to be, the only concern I have is the sustainability aspect of it, as far as like traffic on the little road there. I don't know if it's 20 families is really going to make much of an impact there, but
Well, as I said, we use 20 lots as the threshold for the low volume road standard of what you generate before we require a second means of ingress and egress for emergency access. So like the Twin Valley subdivision, that was 20 lots. They had to build a second means of ingress and egress. Because it's over. Here you got 20 lots, it's the same thing. That's why I'm suggesting that road has to be connected if it's going to meet the CDD requirement for low volume road standard. But that being said, I don't think that the traffic generation from 20 lots, that's why it's low volume, it's not going to, I think, adversely impact Holmes Road.
and then
The abutting roads and abutting town, and abutting town. I think the traffic's going to go down Holmes Road into Marshall. I don't think it's going to be that significant. Whereas I think, unlike the application that's pending before the court, I think had higher density. So there may have been a traffic issue with that, I don't know.
Yeah.
my only other concern is access for fire, but it seems like it should be all right.
Again, that we will get refer out to staff and fire marshal. So we can do this plan. I will make sure they have adequate access. They may want the loop road. I don't know. Fire protection. I think with the subdivision on the corner of the Walnut
They
Hill
may have done,
and
they may have done one
Road,
in the past.
we talked about fire protection there. I thought it was.
I don't think there was one required ultimately.
So
Do we know if there was a traffic study done on Holmes Road at all in the past? No.
no, just so few homes. I think it's
Yeah.
the state forest is at the end.
Okay, so it's not.
So it's not really necessary in that
Okay.
case. Okay.
There's not a lot of traffic out there. And I think with the remaining land that is developable is not an open space. There was a 15 to 18 lots that Orbitol had approved, and that subdivision since haven't waited to build it out. So it's possible that I could be back in the future. But I don't think that would set it up for traffic congestion.
Do we need to do a public hearing?
No.
Anybody else have any further questions or comments?
So we're not required to do a public hearing, but is it suggested that we do?
Well, again, it's your discretion. I
Right.
wouldn't be surprised if the commission did. I think it's important to note that the previous application that was before zoning, that's now in appeals, obviously
Oh,
there's public
yeah.
interest.
I think it's gonna have to-
I
Again,
think we should.
would there be
Yeah.
public interest in this? I'm sure there would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on. They're more than welcome to attend the meetings. They are public meetings, whether it's not necessarily a public hearing, they could at least hear and follow what's going on. Should
Okay.
you choose to hold a public hearing, then they have the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
Again, A3G application where it's not having to meet the regulations, explicitly, there's not a lot of room for,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're come out of. Maybe they'll point.
Oh, I can tell you.
I guess
They come out with a lot,
Yeah,
so.
no.
They'll find stuff.
Right.
But, as you know, we have since revised our regulations regarding the ERT. We're working on revising them again to clarify that further. So, in terms of environmental review, we still require the biological review. They have a design report, which I understand all those reports are in there.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I suspect upon reviewing that, we'll find that, the environmental piece is being met or not.
Mhm.
I'm going to review this just like any other
Yeah.
application. So, I anticipate meeting the regulations, because they may take applications
Mhm.
otherwise.
Right.
Kind of where I'm at with it. But again, we'll do a thorough review. Should something come up, we'll note it and report it back to the commission.
What do the other commission members feel about having a public hearing?
I'd like to have one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's in our best
I think we
interest to
have to.
have, well, even though it's not technically required because it's,
Yeah.
30J, it's also, if it wasn't a 30J with 20-lot subdivision, it normally would require a public hearing also. I think it's probably in our best interest
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
a public hearing. Any other discussion, or just,
No?
I can entertain a motion to have a public hearing for the next, the March meeting, I guess?
Do we have time for,
March
March
11th.
is that, oh, yeah, because it's February, so we have that thing. Yes,
For March meeting, for the March meeting, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Time.
I would anticipate staff
Yeah.
that completed the review by then.
Okay.
Have a report to it.
Alicia, I'd like to make a motion. I just was curious, do I need to read the entire thing, or can I just say zoning referral A? Or do I need to read, application of Edward M. Casella, attorney for Pelletier and Niantic?
I think you
As
have to
discussed.
make a motion that
Yeah.
the application of Kristen Clark,
Okay,
Duval Partners is
Yeah.
due for a public hearing
Yeah.
on March 11th,
okay.
2025.
Good.
So you don't have to read the whole thing.
So moved.
It is for the, Kristen Clark application.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I read the wrong.
Correct,
For the 830G application, yes.
for the Duval Partners.
Right.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye?
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we'll be unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you. That's our next one.
Next up on our agenda, we have a zoning referral. It's based on an application by Edward M. Casella, attorney for Pelletier Niantic Connecticut LLC, for a proposed text amendment to create new section 12B SU EMC, which is a floating special use district with additional controls in section 25.5 of the East Lyme zoning regulations. Just to note, the public hearing for that is scheduled for March 20th, so we would have a meeting in between that public hearing. Gary, did you want to discuss that, or just?
I have not yet reviewed it, so I'm receiving this today as well.
Oh.
So I'm really not certain. Obviously, I know Pelletier Niantic, CT LLC, and the property that they're interested in. So basically, what you're reading there is what would allow that to occur on the
Okay.
Tracus property.
Have they changed what they were going to do before? Aren't they supposed to be something else?
They, I don't know if they had nothing planned, but my understanding is they have this basically, the elderly housing all the way through, I guess, end of life care.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's just
you
the
go
one-
from independent living.
Yeah, I love that.
other type of a thing.
I love that.
Yeah, you progress down to, yeah.
You know,
I think that's a need in this town?
They were also working on some memory care type facility as well, included in that. They wanted, my understanding was a hotel as well to support that facility. Their family using it. So I think there must have been, the zoning regs, some issues there as far as what would be permissible or not within the zone. So obviously, there's some uses here that aren't allowed. I'm seeing under control some highlighted numbers, in terms of square footage, bedrooms. Maybe those are some changes that they're making.
Oh, yeah.
But I have to review this to really see what talk with the zoning official.
Yeah.
Today.
I think there were some issues, I guess, off Dodge Pond, I guess there were some issues with the aquifer and water supply, I think.
There could be, certainly
Could be.
because we have our water supply well,
I know.
proximity to wetlands,
I
and
think that was addressed in the POCD, but,
runoff, contaminants, and
right.
proximity to our town well.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. So that piece would be reviewed by zoning in terms of the protection
Right.
area, agency that might.
Right, so we'll be actually discussing whether it's consistent with the POCD, but we can still discuss. I can continue the discussion at the next meeting since it'll be before their public hearing. Our meeting will be before their public hearing.
Yeah,
So
I would take a look at what's being proposed. I'll review my due diligence as anyone as always.
Is that what this is?
Forward to a memorandum.
It's just larger.
That's my findings. And go from there. Decision. And the time for the public hearing.
okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll discuss it at the next meeting and continue. Municipal referrals, there were none. Next up, we have old business, subdivision regulation, section 4, application submission procedure. Is any updates on that, or?
Yes, so, as I reported at the last meeting, Attorney Smarter retired, so Tim Bleasdale is taking over the charge. So he's reviewing them, getting up to speed. He emailed me last week, I was on vacation. Bring that up. Okay, so he's been working on the draft. He had a couple of questions. I guess Mark, went through Mark's memo indicating he was going to be finding significant effect multiple times. So he wanted to raise a question, he read this thing, purpose of the EIS, what they're trying to accomplish necessarily. So I advised him in response to this that because we had to eliminate the ERT requirement, that the commissions, they still wanted a report of some form or fashion. And while the other reports, the biological report, the natural and cultural resource analysis, the site analysis map, is an archaeological report, those things are required by the regs, that it kind of provides a home for all of those pieces. So I have a feeling what he's going to do is maybe kind of reword things and maybe suggest moving things around versus creating a whole new section that just reiterates is redundant. So rather than having redundancy, just cleaning it all up. I expect that he'll come back with, then why don't we do this instead? This report, we'll call it an EIS, and it'll contain the biological report, the archaeological report, all of those things, because it would anyway. So we'll see where that goes, but he is working on it. So hopefully by next month we'll get that clarified into something more palatable.
Anybody have any questions? We'll discuss it more next meeting, I guess. Thank you. Next up, we have the conveyance of open space. We have the 3 different subdivisions: Nathan Hale Drive subdivision, Catbird Lane subdivision, and the Ichabod Lane subdivision. Do you have any updates on that, or?
Just, the Kepler Lane, I received correspondence from Attorney Garrity regarding that parcel. It is for sale, so it may get sold. There was a long, I call it tail to the parcel. I think GIS map, see. So this is the parcel in question. From approximately, I think this area here, it could be a little lower, somewhere in here. They basically cut the rest of this off and this whole tail to the back where my cursor's going over. It basically left this area with a lot, and they're selling this lot off. This tail got conveyed to the land trust, East Land Land Trust. Why, them as opposed to New England Forestry Foundation, who owns the 200 acres to the east? Not sure. But I think that organization has seen its own turnover internally, but I don't know. Their land holdings are still their land holdings. So, but again, KSK Associates, I believe that is another LLC of Mr. Harney, and he likes to use the land trust. So I am working on that as the actual legitimacy of that. My position on it is that it needs to go through a re-subdivision in order to build a house there. As this parcel, per the original subdivision plan, my understanding is it was dedicated open space. So I would think anybody on Kepler Lane might be aggrieved by the development of this parcel if we were just to allow it without it going through a re-subdivision and a full public hearing process. So that's what I've advised the landowner. Again, they want to sell it, they can sell it, but I don't think that they're selling the building lot.
It's not landlocked, is it?
No, it has frontage on
Cedar
Cedar
Brook.
Brook.
Okay, oh, okay.
I mean, it certainly looks highly developable, but, you know, again, when they made the application for the initial subdivision, they obviously cut it out for open space. I don't know why exactly, but I also believe they took this, and I'll have to look to see if this got revised, this long point. I think they might have tried to convey that to this lot. Which, gee, that's a pretty good thing. So that's the story there. So I've only got that correspondence. The other two items I am continuing to research and see if we can track down some more information on them before we move forward with just some sort of foreclosure.
Any questions or just any comments? Okay. Thank you for the update. I guess new business, we have none. So I guess that's it. I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.